Greetings, everybody. Welcome. The day they said would never happen just landed in handcuffs, guys. Ex-Prince Andrew, the artist formerly known as the Prince, the Andrew, formerly known as the Prince, long accused in the court of public opinion, long defended by royal lawyers, barristers, and his PR team has now been arrested in connection with the Epstein Files. This is crazy, you guys. The man who once walked the palace halls is now walking into a holding cell and soon to be a courtroom. Greeting, everybody. Greetings. Hit the like button. This isn't a TV interview, a statement, or a carefully scripted denial. This is being in custody. This is charges. This is the system finally putting its hands on someone that many believed was untouchable. So I'm going to break down what we know about the arrest, what Andrew is actually being accused of, how it ties into Epstein's trafficking network, and what this means for every powerful name still hiding in those files. Is this the first arrest of the Epstein case? I think so. I think this is the first arrest. So hit subscribe, smash the like so this stream gets pushed while we're live, and let me know in the chat. Is this real justice starting or just a royal sacrifice to protect everyone else? Let's get into it.
Start with breaking news about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. The BBC understands that he has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. That's from our correspondent who has found that information out. Just for context.
And that's what he's being charged with, misconduct in public office. For sending emails that he wasn't supposed to Jeffrey Epstein. Hello.
We heard this morning from the Prime Minister in an interview that nobody is above the law when he was asked about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, but he declined to say whether the former prince should volunteer himself to the UK police. We now understand, though, that Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, the former Prince Andrew, has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct.
Thank you, Artax, for the jewels. Thank you.
In public office. So just to give you some more context on this, this is clearly linked to the files that have been coming out about Jeffrey Epstein. And we understand that
Andrew, formerly known as Prince, with his wife,
Thames Valley Police has been assessing allegations that a woman was sent to the UK by Jeffrey Epstein for a sexual encounter with Mr. Mountbatten-Windsor, and the encounter allegedly occurred at the former prince's residence, Royal Lodge, in 2010. The woman, who's not British, was in her 20s at the time.
Hit that like button, guys.
And the woman's lawyer said that after spending the night with Mountbatten-Windsor at the Royal Lodge in 2010, the woman alleges she was given tea and a tour of Buckingham Palace.
Tea and a tour.
Now, we've also, clearly, those are some of the links that Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has always denied any wrongdoing on the matters of the links with Jeffrey Epstein to do with sexual matters, but he is also being investigated for his role as a trade envoy. MPs might be looking into his conduct while he was working as a trade envoy for the UK.
He was bound by an oath to not share these emails, but he did it anyway, and he shared them with Jeffrey Epstein. How about that?
The Today programme heard from Liam Byrne, who said his committee, the Business and Trade Committee, which is a cross-party committee, would be meeting next Tuesday to decide how we might or might not take this investigation forward. Now, we understand from the latest files released by the US Department of Justice that the former prince forwarded sensitive government documents and commercial information to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. As I've mentioned, Andrew has always denied any wrongdoing. MPs have been taking the allegations acutely seriously, according to Mr. Byrne, and they said that they guarantee that MPs are not in the market for letting anything slip through the cracks. For context, the former Duke of York served as UK trade envoy for between 2001 and 2011, and in this role he travelled globally and enjoyed privileged access to senior government and business contacts around the world.
And that includes some countries that were open for certain types of investments, that he would forward this information to Epstein. You're going to hear a lot about this. This is crazy.
In 2010, Andrew appears to have forwarded government reports from visits to Vietnam, Singapore and China to Epstein.
And hit that like button.
According to the recently published files. And the documents also appear to show Andrew forwarded Epstein information on investment opportunities in gold and uranium in Afghanistan.
Wow.
So to recap, if you're just joining us, the BBC understands that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been arrested.
He really thought none of this was going to go wrong for him.
He has been living at Wood Farm on the Sandringham estate.
He thought he was untouchable. Wrong.
Now, the documents, as I was talking about, under official guidance, trade envoys have a duty of confidentiality over sensitive commercial or political information about their official visits. I understand we can now join Lucy Manning, who's the one who's been breaking the story. And Lucy, tell us what you know.
Good morning. Well, my understanding is that there has been a very significant development in the investigation into the Epstein Files, and Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been arrested this morning on suspicion of misconduct in public life.
Wow.
That goes back to documents when he was a trade envoy that are alleged to have been passed to Epstein. It was actually the Mail Online this morning that had some pictures of what looked like police officers near the Sandringham estate, and I was able to confirm that there has been an arrest made this morning. We are expecting a statement from the police force. It is Thames Valley Police who have been looking into the allegations against Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. They've been looking into sexual allegations and misconduct in public life. My understanding is this arrest is just about the misconduct in public.
That's his house.
Life, and obviously
Unreal.
A very significant moment that the former Prince Andrew has been arrested. He has previously strenuously denied any wrongdoing on any of these matters related to Epstein.
Tell us a little bit about what it means, the misconduct in public office. How serious a charge might that be?
It is very serious.
Well, it is a serious charge, and it does involve people who were in positions of
He's a treasoner.
Using their office either for criminal or personal gain. We must stress at the moment they are only allegations, and the police will have more information and research and investigations that they need to do. It is Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's birthday today, and he will have now marked this birthday being arrested by British police. It is fairly, outstanding, astonishing, really, that a member, he's still, is it 8th or 9th in line to the throne, that a member of the royal family, although he doesn't have those royal titles anymore, the King's brother, has been arrested by British police in relation to these Epstein allegations.
And on that, Lucy, how damaging is it to the royal family? We've seen that on outings recently, other members of the royal family have been asked questions about this. What is the likely fallout of it now escalating?
This is his birthday, an arrest on his birthday.
to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor actually being arrested?
Well, it is extremely damaging. There are unanswered questions for the royal family itself that they haven't answered. We've had two statements from members of the royal family previously about their thoughts with the victims in Epstein. They
Happy
have
birthday
tried to cut
Andrew
Mountbatten Windsor off, losing the royal titles and distancing themselves from him. But I think there is a feeling that the royal family will have to say more and do more. Obviously, they won't want to get involved in any way
very
with
messy.
The police investigation ongoing. But
very, very messy. We're going to jump over to another story. This is Piers Morgan. A lot of people are familiar with Piers Morgan. Love him, hate him, whatever it is. He has a lot of experience with the royal family, so he's going to talk about it here.
Has a long history with the royal family. Piers Morgan has met Andrew, knows his ex-wife Fergie and their daughter as well. He joins us now on the phone. Hey, Piers, did you ever think it would come to this?
Do you know, I was beginning to fear it might, but when it actually happens, it is an absolute bombshell. I mean, to put this into context, there has been no member of the royal family arrested in my lifetime. I'm 60 years old. If you have to go back to
I've never heard of anybody be arrested in the royal family. That's crazy.
To the last time that a member of the British royal family was arrested. And this is a serious matter. If he is convicted of misconduct in public office, then the vast majority of people that receive that kind of conviction end up with a prison sentence, and the maximum sentence is life in prison.
Life.
And this is the king's brother who remains eighth in line to the throne. So this is, like I say, an absolute bombshell. Not completely surprising, because I think the tone of the King's statement last week clearly opened the door for the police to make a move.
So Piers, just to be clear for us that don't understand, even though his royal titles were taken away, even though he was kicked out of the palace and all the estate, he's not receiving a salary from the government, from the people anymore, he still remains in the line of succession?
Yeah, I know it sounds preposterous, but that is the current state of play. Now, I think it's very fanciful that he would ever accede to the throne under any circumstances, and I think increasingly that is going to be ruled out anyway by the sequence of events. But I think it's important to clarify here that the arrest is not in connection with anything to do with the sex scandal involving Epstein. This is very specifically about his behavior when he was a trade envoy, which is a government appointment. He was acting on behalf of the country for about a decade, in which he traveled around the world as a kind of business envoy for the country. And during that period, we now know from leaks from the Epstein Files.
Like and subscribe, guys. Thank you so much.
Remember,
help me out and hit that like button.
He was giving him the information he was getting, top secret information, as a trade envoy. I mean, this is treacherous, treasonous behavior by a man who is the brother of the king of this country now. So these are very serious allegations. And of course, once there's a police investigation, they've been raiding all of his homes now. They'll be taking all his devices, everything they can find that may relate to this. But that might also, of course, uncover more information, more evidence about the other incredibly serious allegations against Andrew, which is that he, of course, committed sex crimes involving Virginia Giuffre and possibly others.
You know, you're saying he's charged with misconduct in public office. You're saying that carries a maximum sentence of life imprisonment. I mean, what kind of top secret info is he sharing with Jeffrey Epstein? And how serious is this? Why would he share secrets about the government with Jeffrey Epstein? This is a statement, Piers, and I want to get your reaction from the king that we just read earlier, but now that we have you on, I've learned with the deepest concern and news about Andrew Batten Windsor, and suspicion of misconduct in public office. What now follows is the full, fair, and proper process by which this issue is investigated in the appropriate manner and by the appropriate authorities. In this, as I have said before, they have our full and wholehearted support and cooperation. Let me state clearly, the law must take its course. As this process continues, it would not be right for me to comment further on this matter. Meanwhile, my family and I will continue in our duty and service to you all. What do you make of that statement? He's calling his brother by his full name.
Right.
Yeah, it's just astounding. I mean, this is somebody who was Prince Andrew, who was the Queen's favoured son, it was reported constantly. And there are going to be very difficult questions for the Queen. You know, you got to remember, the Queen stepped in and paid over $12 million, it is reported, to Virginia Giuffre to settle that case she brought against when he was then Prince Andrew. This is the King and Prince William and others. Of course, they've all been around Buckingham Palace, for example, where there are now increasing pieces of evidence emerging of flights where
Nikki Finn,
young women
10
have been flown in and brought to the palace. Who knew what, where, and when? You know, it's increasingly likely, I would say, that other senior members of the royal family are going to have to also be interviewed by the police. So this might just be the
Piers Morgan
tipping point of a gigantic scandal, which represents, I would argue, an existential threat to the monarchy itself. It is that serious.
Wow. So, Pierce, let's talk about the government. We know about Ambassador Mandelson out. He's linked in the Epstein files. We know the chief of staff that recommended him to Starmer. He's out. He said it was my fault. I recommended him, so I'll quit. Is Starmer going to stay in office? The prime minister? Is
this guy?
Is he basically hanging on by a thread?
Yeah, I think he's a political dead man walking. I mean, and it's all centered around what happened with Lord Mandelson. And the short version of that scandal is that Mandelson, who had twice previously lost government jobs, was brought back by Keir Starmer last year to become the UK ambassador to the United States. And it was revealed last week in the Prime Minister's Questions, the weekly public debate you see in the House of Commons between the Prime Minister and the opposition leader. Keir Starmer admitted that before he made that appointment, he had been told that Mandelson had maintained an ongoing friendship and relationship with Epstein post his conviction and post the timeline that he had always said was the timeline, which, like with Andrew, they both pretended that they dropped Epstein after the conviction. They didn't. And we know that from the leaks from the Epstein files. So I think Starmer is in serious trouble.
Starmer's Crown Prosecution Service decided not to prosecute Jimmy Savile. Okay, that was Keir Starmer's prosecution service. Now, some people say whether he was involved or not, but it was his counsel. It was his. He was the head of what's called the DPP, the Director of Public Prosecutions in England, and head of the Crown Prosecution Service.
Astonished if he is still Prime Minister in
Jimmy
2 to
Savile.
3 months. We have the local elections in May. It's very likely that Labour will get an absolute shellacking then. And I think
And Jimmy Savile considered likely one of the worst predators of modern history. And this man's uncle, Louis Mountbatten, introduced Jimmy Savile to the royal family. And he was subsequently dispatched by IRA on his boat.
Point for Starmer. So we're seeing some extraordinary things happening in this country. The King's brother arrested, the British Prime Minister very likely to be unseated because of his connection to the Epstein scandal and appointing Mandelson. Mandelson himself, remember, it's now been shown from evidence in these files, was also, when he was the business secretary to a senior member of the British government, he was also giving highly sensitive, classified business information to Epstein. Now, remember, Epstein was a financier. So was he taking this information from Lord Mandelson, a member of the British government at the time, and from Andrew when he was Prince Andrew, a senior member of the royal family? Was he taking the information that they were both giving him, which was top secret, and then using it to make a ton of money? That will be I'm sure, the paper trail that the police, both here and probably the FBI and other authorities in America, will now be pursuing.
But Piers, why do you think?
What if they're able to extradite him because he's no longer royal? He's, he's been taken into custody. We're going to get to the other part. Spoiler alert.
The king is being so forceful here because it would appear, at least for some, that he was protected by the queen at one point. But now that the new king is there, he is not supporting him one bit.
I think, the Queen was an elderly lady who believes her son. And I think Andrew lied to his mother. And the reason I say that is if you go back to the now infamous interview that he did with BBC's Newsnight with Emily Maitlis back in 2019, incredible to think it was 7 years ago. But if you go back and watch that interview again, as I did the other night, the number of things that he said in that interview that have now been proven to be lies by the evidential stuff that's coming out of the Epstein files, I suspect he was spinning the same lines to his mother, and she believed him, that he was totally innocent, he'd never met Virginia Giuffre, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We now know only from the last few days that not only was that picture of him with Virginia Giuffre and Ghislaine Maxwell genuine, because Ghislaine Maxwell confirms that in leaked emails, but we also know that from Epstein, from a leaked email a few days ago, that he had sex with Virginia Giuffre because Epstein reveals that in some correspondence. So all the statements that Andrew made in that interview have now been proven to be lies.
He lied.
And I think that he spun the same lies to his mother.
Is anybody surprised?
Has seen that these were lies, realizes that Andrew was lying, realized the severity of this scandal, and the potential danger to the monarchy itself. You know, Ainsley and I, we've done a lot of stuff together in the UK, big royal events, from coronations to funerals in the last few years. And previously, we will have all covered things like the death of Princess Diana. These are huge seismic moments in the royal family's history. I have never seen a bigger threat to the future of the monarchy than what is unfurling right now.
That is incredible. Yeah, wow. You know, a lot of people, as you know, Piers, I love to cover the royal family and loved working with you over there during some of these events. But not everybody in America is that into the royal family, like you and I might be, right? Sean, for instance, always tells me, you know, we're not British anymore.
Give us a 1 in the chat if you like the royal family. Put a 2 in the chat if you can't stand them. 1 if you like the royal family. 2 if you can't stand them.
We started our own country, and so we don't have we don't need royalty. We're just blue-collar people trying to make our way up the ladder. But this story is interesting because it involves Epstein. And so Epstein, it's amazing that Epstein has done so much damage, not only to these young girls and as a convicted pedophile, or was before he died, all of the connections that he has, the ripples across this country and now yours. So how do you respond to that when you woke up today, a member of your royal family for the first time ever in your life was arrested?
You know, it reminded me of when it was in the early hours, about 4 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday night into Sunday, back in '97, when I got a call. I was editor of the Daily Mirror newspaper, and I got a call from my news desk to say that the British Foreign Secretary at the time had just confirmed that Princess Diana had died in that car crash in her 30s. In a Paris underpass. And I remember this huge sense of shock I had. And I had the same feeling this morning in London when somebody messaged me and said, wow, Andrew's been arrested. Because it's hard to exaggerate this. I mean, there's only been in my lifetime one member of the royal family who's even appeared in court. It was Princess Anne back in 2001, I think it was, when one of her dogs, Dolly, a terrier, attacked 2 young children in Great Windsor Park and bit them, and she was charged under the Dangerous Dogs Act, pled guilty and paid a fine of about $700. That's the only time in my lifetime a royal's been anywhere near a courtroom on a criminal offence, and they weren't, and she wasn't arrested. For the king's brother to be arrested, and then to, in my opinion now, start a chain of events rolling which the royal family have no control over. You know, once the police are investigating, seizing evidence, who knows where this may go? We know that Andrew's been lying about what happened with Virginia Giuffre. And
we know he's been lying because his lips were moving. We are going to get to some breaking news right now, ladies and gentlemen. This is something quite interesting here. Oh, my goodness. We have breaking news live from Buckingham Palace. The prince has been in custody for a while. Now he has been released. So we're going to find out some of those details. We're going to get back to the details of the arrest, but this is breaking, so here we go.
I spoke to the Democratic member of that House Oversight Committee, Suhas Subramaniam, and essentially he's saying to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, listen, we want to hear from you any time, any place, anywhere.
I think this is a breakthrough. The reality is no one's been arrested in a position of power like he has and been held accountable the way he's being held accountable. And I think it shows that this investigation is fruitful and yielding some results. And the victims certainly are appreciative of the fact that law enforcement is willing to hold people accountable based on what's found in the files. That this isn't just an exercise in voyeurism and seeing who is involved and engaged with Jeffrey Epstein, that there's going to be real consequences.
Breaking news here, guys.
There's also real consequences for people
news.
who don't cooperate in our investigation. And so I applaud the arrest. I hope something will come of it. Most importantly, I hope that we get some answers because we haven't gotten any from him.
What do you think are the implications for your request for Andrew to come and give answers or take questions from the House Oversight Committee?
Well, he says he did nothing wrong and he committed no criminal activity or wrongdoing, which is fine. But if he wants to clear his name and his family's name, then he'll still come and cooperate with us.
He's quite happy with what he sees as steps towards justice in the United Kingdom, not so happy at stagnation, as he and others would have it, in the United States. There is concern here on this side of the Atlantic that there is an accountability gap, and that the guilty in this country are being given a free pass.
James Matthews, thank you so much for us there.
We're going to jump over here. We're going to see some of this release coverage, a little bit more of it. Let's go.
In an unprecedented moment in history, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office.
Over the last several hours, officers have been conducting searches at multiple properties previously lived in by the ex-prince, and the King has reacted to the news in a statement saying the law must take its course and that his family will continue in our duty and service to you all. For more, we're joined by Daily Mirror Royal Editor Russell Myers. A huge day live in London there for us. Thank you. We'll get to his arrest in a moment, but we're hearing he's just been released, Andrew. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. Good morning, Trevor. And yes, he has been just released. I've just seen an image of the former Prince Andrew lying down in the back of a car. The flashlight of the cameras that were waiting for him to come out of the police station, they've captured this image. And it tells you what an extraordinary series of events we've seen today.
Yeah, this is him in the back of the car.
Not only the King's brother being arrested.
Look at the look on his face.
6 police cars unmarked turning up at the King's residence, interviewing him under caution. And, you know, what is the state of play for him now? I would imagine we're still waiting for confirmation, but he will have been bailed to an address. That address will be the King's Sandringham estate that he just moved into just a few days ago. But this is an extraordinary...
Out on bail.
A series of events for the royal family. Certainly the King has moved to try and distance the royal family from Andrew today, saying that the law must take its place. And for Andrew, certainly these are very, very serious allegations that he's facing.
Russell, how does the monarchy distance itself from that?
Well, the situation for the King is very, very difficult because, you know, he is still paying for him to be housed. I understand the pressure is on Andrew to meet his own legal expenses. No doubt they will be considerable. But the King obviously has a duty of care to his brother and a duty of care to the public as well, because the public sense of revulsion in all of these cases and the allegations facing Andrew is very, very high indeed. So the King doesn't want...
And this is Andrew as he's being released. Boy, this is a great shot. Whoever got this shot, give them a raise.
Him to be a burden on the public finances. But where does this leave Andrew? You know, these are serious allegations. The allegation and charge of misconduct in a public office actually has a sentence of a potential life imprisonment. And that tells you how serious this is. Obviously, these are just claims and allegations at this stage, but there are 9 police forces assessing a range of allegations relating to Andrew's conduct at the moment. So very, very serious.
That's right. Wow. Just on that. So Thames Valley Police...
And there you have it. Prince Andrew, I almost said Albert. Prince Andrew, former Prince Andrew, coming out of being released by police. Look at that look on his face. Woo!
So this particular investigation are saying that this is extremely sensitive.
Breaking
and
news,
please be mindful of the information that is shared. We heard from the King, didn't we, initially? Will we hear from them again, do you think, or is this it for a while?
Well, in the space of 10 days now, we've had 2 statements from the royal family, well, for the King. First of all, Buckingham Palace saying how concerned.
That's a lot. This shot right here, that's a lot. That is a lot.
That the King was about this cascade of allegations that have followed Andrew. Then today we've had Andrew being referred to by, again, his name rather than any royal titles after the King stripped him. And the King, very, very importantly, saying that the law has to take precedence in this case. And that gives you a sense that the royal family or the establishment are not protecting him anymore. He's a private citizen, a private individual that has to face...
He is on his own.
...these charges.
An extraordinary photo that will go down in history. Russell, thank you.
It sure will go down in history. Let's take a look at some of the searching as police search the properties in Norfolk and Berkshire. They will continue these searches.
With the royal commentator Jenny Bond. Jenny, good to have you with us. I appreciate you sharing your time. Your reaction to what we've learned in the last 45 minutes?
Well, obviously, it's incredibly shocking. The pressure's been building so much over the last few days, almost the last few weeks, that you felt
Don't wear that no more.
that something had to happen. But I think most people thought we might possibly see police cars arriving to carry out a search of properties in which the former prince has lived. But to have him arrested, as it seems he is now arrested and in custody, is extraordinary and shocking, and probably the worst nightmare for the palace and for the king.
Talk to me about how this sits in the history of the royal family, this moment. The royal family has had crisis at its heart and at its door on other instances, but from at a family level, the arrest of the brother of the king, how does that compare?
Well, yes, it takes me back and makes me think of running across the forecourt of Buckingham Palace, coming out of the gates and
Like
going
and
straight into
subscribe,
the
guys.
camera
Hit
to
that
say
like
that
button.
the
Help me out.
Prince and Princess of Wales, Charles and Diana, were separating. It makes me think of the night in Paris when I got the phone call in the middle of the night saying that Diana had been involved in a car crash, and then we all know what happened after that. It is profoundly shocking. And more than those events, which were tragic and sad in their own ways, this is just, the whole episode has been so sordid, so unpleasant, and so shocking in the allegations of criminality, obviously yet to be proved. Obviously, Andrew has thus far denied everything, but the latest allegations that he conducted himself badly, we could say possibly criminally, allegedly it could be that, while he was trade envoy for the UK. This is about as low as it can get. The allegations of sexual misconduct in his friendship with Epstein are equally unpleasant to report on and to hear about. The whole episode has been so tawdry thus far. And today, it is the ultimate shock in what's been a shocking story for weeks now.
Jenny Bond, just stay with us, please. But I just want to bring some new footage to our viewers here on Sky News. We showed you those stills images of these vehicles arriving. I believe at some point we'll be able to bring you some moving footage of those vehicles. But this is the scene earlier today in Sandringham, close to Wood Farm, we believe, officers from Thames Valley Police arriving. And then in the other image that we have so far at the moment is of those vehicles parked with individuals at the back of those vehicles.
I'm saying that it starts
Jenny,
now.
you have followed the royal family so closely over the years. Talk to us, if you will, a little bit about Andrew the individual. He has been described as arrogant on more than one occasion, and we know that this is his 66th birthday. How will the 66-year-old respond, react, reflect on what is happening to him right now?
Well, you would think he now is finding himself face to face with the reality of the fact that he is no longer in the privileged position he was in before. Yes, he is arrogant. He always has been very stuck up on his status, very self-assured, pompous to many of the people around him, and some would say rather rude on occasions. He has been used to a life in which everyone gives him what he wants and jumps when he says jump. Now he is being ordered, one assumes, to do whatever the police are saying he must do. You can imagine the situation he must find himself in at a police station. It's something he would never have experienced in his life, and it would be his worst nightmare as well, I think. You would think eventually this has brought him down a peg or two or three. But I wouldn't bet on it, because he is a proud man, and he is, as he says, protesting thus far as we know, his innocence in all wrongdoing. I imagine he now has a solicitor at his side. And I imagine at the palace they are considering what they can and cannot say, but I think they probably will say nothing, because you remember that justice is carried out in the name of the king, and so I think he has no option here but to step back very clearly from this situation and let the police do their work.
And it is worth remembering, we talk about the royal family as an entity, it is worth remembering that he is a family man and that he does have children of his own. How will this be impacting Beatrice and Eugenie? Because, you know, they have been referenced in the Epstein Files in relation to both their father and also their mother. What will be happening to them? Because they both are still members of the working royal family, to a lesser extent than the senior royals, but nonetheless.
Yes, it's a very difficult situation for them, and of late questions have been asked about them as well, in so much as they have been mentioned in the Epstein Files. They did know Jeffrey Epstein. They were taken to lunch with him in Miami shortly after he was released from jail. I say taken by their mother. They were with their mother, but they weren't children, you know. They were 19 and 20. They were perfectly capable of reading papers and finding out about the people that they were meeting. So I think that they must be probably asking maybe themselves one or two questions. I'm wondering why they didn't question further where their parents got all their money and their lavish lifestyle and their friendship group. But it's difficult for them. They are daughters. This is a family. They have all thus far been very loyal to both their parents, though of late, and I don't know the truth of this, but there have been reports that the girls have been finding it, the women, I should say, they're not girls, women have been finding it somewhat difficult to be seen with their parents and have been keeping their distance somewhat. But a very difficult situation all round. And I've got to go now because everybody wants to talk to me.
Well, Jenny Bond, we appreciate you talking to us. Royal commentator Jenny Bond there, thank you so much.
So that is some of the news there. We're going to keep going. And this is about King Charles and his statement. This is from Buckingham Palace earlier. King Charles' public statement about his bruh.
Some breaking news in the last few minutes. We've had a statement from the King. I'm going to read it to you in full. I have learned with the deepest concern the news about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and suspicion of misconduct in public office. What now follows is the full, fair and proper process by which this issue is investigated in the appropriate manner and by the appropriate authorities. In this, as I have said before, they have our full and wholehearted support and cooperation. Let me state clearly, the law must take its course. As this process continues, it would not be right for me to comment further on this matter. Meanwhile, my family and I will continue in our duty and service to you all. And that statement has been signed off, Charles R. Well, let's cross live now and speak to our royal correspondent, Helena Wilkinson, who is at Royal Lodge. And Helena, just talk me through, first of all, before we talk about what the King has said in terms of his statement, talk me through what's happening at Royal Lodge today.
Yes, well, the BBC understands that there are searches currently ongoing in Royal Lodge. Let me just step out from in front of the camera. I don't know if you can make out in the distance, basically the gate where we are. This is where we are allowed to broadcast from. But just beyond that, you enter into Windsor Great Park. You then get to another gate. I don't know if you can make out some sort of pink houses in the distance. Beyond that gate is Royal Lodge. That is where the former Prince Andrew lived until recently. He lived there for more than 20 years. He moved out of the property about a couple of weeks or so ago up to the Sandringham estate. He moved out under the cover of darkness, and we know that he still, or we understand he still has some belongings here because he was going to come back after he moved out to come back and get some of them. But the BBC understands that the searches are currently ongoing at Royal Lodge. It's a huge property within Windsor Great Park, and just on the other side of the gates that lead to Royal Lodge, that property, we have also seen a number of uniformed police officers. We also understand that they
are... See right here, there's the King's statement up in the upper right there.
Are guarding the scene while those searches are being carried out in Royal Lodge. We also saw a police officer driving in a car through.
Hit that like button.
As well, those searches continuing, and as long as those police officers who we've seen who are guarding that gate. We understand those searches will continue until they have gone. Those searching the property will be looking for various things, of course, computer equipment, laptops, computers, perhaps hard copies as well, while those searches are being carried out. We know that from that statement from Thames Valley Police earlier on today, which confirmed that a man in his 60s, who we know is the former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, that he had been arrested. Thames Valley Police also confirmed in that statement that searches were being carried out at addresses in Norfolk and Berkshire. Well, the searches in Berkshire are here at the Royal Lodge within the grounds of Windsor Great Park, which is not too far away from Windsor Castle.
They're taking all his computers. They're taking everything.
Helena, I'm going to now take us back to the statement from the King, because we've only just heard
Judas.
That in the last few minutes. It's on the screen for those who want to refresh their memories, but I will just read this part of it. Let me state clearly, the King has said, the law must take its course. As this process continues, it would not be right for me to comment further on this matter. An extraordinary statement from the King, basically telling us that this is the law and the law must take its course.
That's true.
Well, exactly. And
let me state clearly, the law must take its course. As this process continues, it would not be right for me to comment further on this matter. Meanwhile, my family and I will continue in our duty and service to you all. It's a very difficult position to be in.
Cast your mind back not long ago when the King put out a previous statement saying that Buckingham Palace rather, said that the palace was standing ready to support Thames Valley Police in any investigation that they needed to be carried out. But an extraordinary development again following the arrest of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor earlier today. That statement from the King, we weren't sure, of course, whether the King would say anything, given that this is now obviously a police matter and that
he's not going to say anything.
Is now under arrest and is in custody. But the King clearly felt like he had to put something out, that he had to make a statement about his younger brother. In that statement, let me just read you that top bit. The King says that I have learned with the deepest concern the news about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and suspicion of misconduct in public office. The King goes on to say, what now follows is the full, fair and proper process by which this issue, he goes on to say, by which this issue.
I think they probably have 3 or 4 really nasty things on him that they could bring out, and he's just going to be the one that gets thrown under the bus first.
Is investigated.
And my personal opinion is that Andrew was likely the worst of them.
The appropriate manner and by the appropriate authorities. And he goes on to say, the King, that they are ready to stand by and wholehearted support and cooperation if that is needed. But clearly the King can only go so far now in terms of what he does say, and we've just seen that in the statement that we've had in the last 10 minutes, that there has to be this police.
We were just talking about Louis Mountbatten a few moments ago, guys.
Further, members of the royal family have been out and about on various engagements throughout the week, but you can imagine it will be a very tricky time for the royal family, given the arrest of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
I mean, it seems like he is going to be the one that's going to be the scapegoat here.
A
scapegoat.
Stunning development in Great Britain. Former Prince Andrew arrested in connection with his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. It follows weeks of new revelations about their friendship following the U.S. Justice Department's release of millions of files from the Epstein case. NBC's Raf Sanchez is in London for us. Raf, good morning to you. First of all, what have you been able to learn so far?
Craig, good morning. This is a fast-moving situation, but here's what we know so far. British police took former Prince Andrew into custody early this morning, local time, in Norfolk. That is in the east of England. It's where he's been living since he was forced out of his royal home in Windsor earlier this month. Now, police are not officially naming him. They are saying at this point that they have taken a man in his 60s into custody. And the allegation, Craig, is misconduct in public office. This is effectively an allegation of corruption. Now, this is important because Andrew, of course, has faced repeated allegations that he sexually abused some of Epstein's trafficking victims. British police are saying that at this point, they are looking into allegations he misused his public office. Now, they are not giving further details at this point, but what we do know is in that massive release of Department of Justice emails from the convicted sex offenders' accounts, there were emails from Prince Andrew, who was a prince back then, back in 2010 to Jeffrey Epstein. He was serving at that point as a trade envoy for the British government. He had access to sensitive trade information, and he sent some of that trade data to Epstein. Again, this is back in 2010. This is after Epstein was convicted in Florida in 2008 when
So these
the prince...
are some of the lies that have been uncovered. Andrew did know. Andrew did have contact with him. So all the things that Andrew said about Epstein was a effing lie.
Was sending him these emails. Now, this is a serious offense if he is charged. It's worth saying at this point he has been arrested. He has not been charged. This is an offense that can carry prison time, and it
life in prison. It can carry life in prison for treason.
Underscores, Craig, just the stunning fall from grace we have been discussing with royal historians here in London this morning, trying to find any precedent for this. No one can think of a situation in the modern era where the king's younger sibling has been arrested on suspicion of public corruption and is potentially facing charges. In terms of what would happen next year, first steps would be some kind of decision about bail, and then it would be in the hands of prosecutors over whether to formally bring charges.
Right. All right, Ref Sanchez Force there in London. Ref, stand by.
I mean, he was released, but still under investigation.
Let's bring in NBC's chief international correspondent, Keir Simmons, who has covered the royal family for decades. And again, Keir, former Prince Andrew,
and we're going to kind of go back and forth with the coverage from the arrest. Now we're going to do some coverage from the release.
We begin with the stunning arrest today of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. We have late word that Andrew has been released after spending most of the day in police.
There it is right there. That's when he was down in the back seat.
Police custody. Police in Britain arrested the former prince this morning in connection with accusations that he shared.
There we go. Hello. What's up, Andy? Look at this.
Confidential information with Jeffrey Epstein while serving as a British trade envoy. Now, for years, Andrew has been embroiled in scandal for his association with the late sex offender, and he was stripped of his royal titles last year. In a statement, King Charles said he supported the investigation of his brother, adding, quote, "The law must take its course." Let's cross right to our correspondent in London, Benedict Pavio. Benedict, let's start with this breaking news, word that Andrew has been released. What can you tell us?
Yes, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor arrested this morning around local time 8 a.m. In his new residence, a private residence of the King on the Sandringham estate, has now been released. He's left police custody following this arrest this morning on suspicion of misconduct in public office. The former prince was photographed reclining in the back of a black Range Rover, which came to collect him, leaving Aylsham Police Station, and that was soon after we spoke, so soon after 1900 GMT. Thames Valley Police have issued a statement. They provide
this released on bail, apparently.
Update following this arrest this morning and now release. The force says Thames Valley Police.
So who bailed him out? Huh? Who do you guys think bailed him out? Who do you think who would bail him out?
Is able to provide this update in relation to an investigation into the offence of misconduct in public office. On Thursday, we arrested a man in his 60s from Norfolk on suspicion of this misconduct in public office. And here's the interesting sentence. The arrested man has now been released under investigation. We can also confirm that our searches in Norfolk have now concluded. That means that the current home search is over, but we can also, it's understood that police searches in Berkshire are still underway. Now, that is the former home on a royal...
This is breaking. This is him coming out, being taken out of the jail.
Estate, and that is near Windsor. And, of course, we know that Andrew lived there for over 20 years, and he was rushed out at night under cover of darkness, very much instructed to by the king, his older brother, and I think that was very much to try and get away from the attention of the media.
Having to cower down in the back seat. Wow.
Because what has been happening is that this scandal of the Epstein Files, this release of the last tranche, particularly of emails by the DOJ, the American Department of Justice, has been completely overshadowing the work done day in, day out by the King, by the Queen, by the heir to the throne, Prince William, by his wife, Catherine, and others. So Thames Valley Police have told us this evening in the statement they will not be making any further statements at this time. So he's left under investigation, presumably wanting to go back to his current home on that Sandringham estate after a bruising, I would imagine, 11 hours. Police cell, probably had his DNA taken, probably had his mugshot taken, a photo, and may have been fingerprinted like any other person who would be arrested in those circumstances. He is not above the law, as indeed Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, had mentioned earlier today.
I'm not sure you can answer this, Benedict, but what should we read into this? The fact that he's been released and the possibility that he could still face charges in this case?
Oh, he could very much still face charges.
He's going to. They bailed him out.
It's interesting. I mean, we had no word.
Where's he going to go?
And the King apparently wasn't told in advance. We've learnt a short while ago that the Home Office, so what is the Ministry of the Interior, was told by Thames Valley Police before that they were going to be arresting the former Prince Andrew. But it is not clear at the moment if he is going to be charged, if indeed, there is a particular line of question that he's been put under. We simply don't
say he was bailed out. Thanks, though.
Know that we don't have those facts. He may have been told that he must not leave the country. So
this is him being released right here.
Though we have the start of this very public arrest today and this release under investigation, this could take weeks, it could take months. And it is important to underline that this arrest has to do with his role from 2001 to 2010 as UK trade envoy, representing the UK government, the United Kingdom across the world on these various business missions. And the allegation, as seen in leaked emails in that last tranche a few weeks ago by the DOJ in America, of him, then Prince Andrew, forwarding very confidential, highly sensitive market information, financial information, analysis by the British team.
Inside information. Just call it what it is, lady.
The British delegation and the British government about financial interests, financial possible future investments, whether it's in Singapore, in Afghanistan, and other countries. And then
international financial crimes. Andrew, you're in trouble, buddy.
This is a complete breach of trust. Since being UK trade envoy, you are held in a very high position, and therefore you have very confidential government documents that are forwarded to you. They are not meant to be forwarded to anybody else outside government, and the allegation is that he sent those to the...
So if there are any people in here, any people from England in here, anyone British in here, because what this man has done, he has gone against all of you. He's betrayed every single one of you there.
Convicted sexual, now dead, paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. So for the moment, this arrest is not directly linked at all to the multiple allegations that he, then Prince Andrew, had any encounters, sexual or other, with Virginia Giuffre, his main accuser, or indeed any other trafficked girls by the same Jeffrey Epstein.
Wow. So we're going to jump back over to the arrest coverage here.
On his 66th birthday. Good morning to you. Tell us a little bit more about what you've been able to glean from the situation so far.
Well, as Raf said, a fall from grace, and to be arrested on your 66th birthday, on your birthday in the early hours of the morning, well, that is quite something. I mean, Craig, look, this is a royal scandal alongside scandals that we've seen through the decades, but the royal family have been trying to distance themselves. We've seen that in the fact that we now call him Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, not Prince Andrew. His title was taken away. His airs and graces, if you like, were taken away. We've seen that in the messaging from King Charles, who frankly has had for a long time a fairly distant relationship with his brother, but also even with Prince William. You'll remember, Craig, just in the past few weeks, on a trip to Saudi Arabia, Prince William and the Princess of Wales, Catherine, put out a statement.
Would be the first arrest in the entire Epstein situation. This is the first arrest.
About the Epstein scandal, talking about their feelings for the victims of that scandal. And clearly it was heartfelt and it was a personal message. But I think it was also part of this process of moving Andrew away from the royal family. One of the questions, of course, Craig, is going to be whether that's really possible, because, for example, the royal watchers are talking now about the question of whether there are emails that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor would have sent while he was a trade envoy, while he was a working member of the royal family. Does Buckingham Palace have records of those emails? Will it be?
There's records of the emails in the Epstein files, Bud. Of course they have them.
Will Buckingham Palace be expected to hand over that kind of evidence? So the possibility that the royal family get pulled into this is very real, despite their efforts to kind of protect the brand, if you like.
And we're going to jump to another part of the story here. Some more about the arrest.
Andrew has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Now known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, he was taken into custody in Norfolk just a short while ago. He is accused of allegedly sharing confidential information with the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Mountbatten Windsor has previously denied any wrongdoing over his ties to Epstein. King Charles had stripped his brother of his titles back in October and has since evicted him from Windsor. Let's get back down to CNN's Salma Abdulaziz, who joins us live in London. Salma, what's the latest that you're hearing?
I want to start by asking maybe questions of what we don't know and what we do know so far. So we do know that he's been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office, but there's a lot of details that are still missing here, of course, Rahel. We don't know the specifics of the allegations of this investigation by the police. We're talking about a period of time between 2001 to 2011 when he was representing the UK as a trade envoy. But what are the specific allegations, the specific accusations of misconduct? We don't yet know that. What information actually prompted Thames Valley Police to make this arrest? That's the key question here, because we understand that they have been assessing this claim for some time now, I would say a period of days. That latest trove of emails where we see these allegations come to light has been out for a few weeks now. So what was the trigger? What was the switch? What was it that the police held on to that said, okay, now is the time when we need to take this very extraordinary action, of course, in this country? We also don't know where Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is currently being held. We don't know where he is being held. We simply know that he's been arrested, but we don't know any details beyond that or what the status of that is in terms of his arrest. And we still don't know if he's been interviewed under caution. That's what it's described as in this country. So essentially, has he been asked questions? Has he sat down with a police officer and been asked questions as of yet? And where has he been asked these questions? What location has he been taken to? What do we actually know right now? Well, what we do know is Mr. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, former Prince Andrew, who only earlier this month was forced out of the royal residence, pushed into his brother's residence, the Sandringham estate, which is currently being searched by police, has now faced a watershed moment, really, not just for himself, but for the royal family and really for this country at large, being arrested. Now, again, Being arrested does not mean being guilty. We do not know the specifics here of why the police have taken this extraordinary action of arrest. That is the detail we need. But you can imagine that the royal family is reeling. King Charles has been trying to get ahead of this time and time again. Last year, he stripped his brother of all his royal titles. I said he's pushed him out of the royal residence. He even took this really extraordinary step of preempting the possibility of this happening right now by saying he was willing to support the police in any inquiry that they had. So there's going to be a sense in this country, first of all, that this has caught up with Prince Andrew. He has been long under question, long under suspicion for his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, a relationship that he appears to have lied about in the past, saying that he ended his relationship with Mr. Epstein once he was a convicted sex offender, so around 2008. Now, in these latest email troves, that does not appear to be the case, and it is now clear that he did continue that relationship after Epstein was convicted, and it is that information that led King Charles to strip him of his royal titles, to take these extraordinary steps to try to get ahead of what's happening here. But again, it has caught up with them. There is going to be also a bit of empathy, I imagine, in this country for his family, the York family as they are known here. He has 2 young daughters. They're in their 30s. They have their own families. Their faces have been splashed all over the media for the last few days. So many questions here swirling around what is, first of all, a family that represents this country, the monarchy as an institution, and how Mr. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor represented it as a trade envoy. And I did write down some details of the emails that could be in question here. Around 2010, he appears to have forwarded government report visits, details of those visits in Vietnam, Singapore, China. There are emails that indicate that Mountbatten Windsor forwarded investment opportunities for gold and uranium in Afghanistan. He had a duty of confidentiality between 2001 and 2011 as trade envoy. Did he abuse the public office? Did he violate government information? Did he violate the pact for confidentiality? That is the
Let's take a look. I want to show you something right here directly from the Epstein files that I've been digging into and looking into a lot of these emails. Let's take a look at this email right here. All right. We're going to take a look at this email right here. This is directly from the Department of Justice Epstein files. All right. So we're going to take a look at this for a second. And what we're going to see is this is CC'd to Jeffrey Epstein, and you could see that in the top there. And this is from Peggy Siegel. Peggy Siegel, who is a Hollywood publicist, and I'm going to get into that in just a second, but here we go. Prince Andrew dinner update. All right. Prince Andrew dinner update. Thursday, December 2nd, 8 p.m., 9 East 71st Street. Yes, that works. Just need name by end of day. Bless you, XO Peg. That is from Charlie Rose. Right? Yes, with a date that works. Here's from Peggy Siegel. This is, okay, I assume if you do not go to Duke, we have pleasure of your company. Here's the list. Prince Andrew, Woody Allen and Sun Yi, Katie Couric, George Stephanopoulos and Ali Wentworth, Jeffrey Epstein, and Peggy. Now, let me show you a little bit more about who Peggy is. This is Peggy Siegel. Now, Peggy Siegel, look at how we can see here in the article from The Hollywood Reporter. It says Jeffrey Epstein in Hollywood, how the notorious PDF used Oscar guru Peggy Siegel to help get back into high society. So this is Peggy Siegel. Peggy Siegel is a publicist. So right here on July 22nd, 2009, Peggy Siegel, one of New York's cultural ringmasters, welcomed Jeffrey Epstein home from prison. How did it feel, she asked, to fall asleep on 100% Egyptian cotton again? Exactly how long was your first freedom shower? What did you have for breakfast? Caviar, smoked salmon, eggs, Benedict. All right, this is disgusting. Siegel was working away in Saint-Tropez, but wearing stripes in celebration of Epstein's release. He had served 13 months on child prostitution charges, and it would be Siegel's task over the final decade of Epstein's life to help reintegrate him into high society. She worked primarily for studios, throwing lavish parties for films with Oscar aspirations, but Epstein what was also an important client. He had funded her trips to the Cannes Film Festival. I have no idea what reaction will be to your re-entry into society, she wrote him a year later, but take it slow and stay quiet. Your friends are there for you, and at least the house is drop dead gorgeous. Siegel took on the challenge with her usual panache. She suggested that Epstein leverage his 7-story Upper East Side mansion to host intimate dinners. This was Peggy Siegel's idea, to host these dinners after he was released from prison for being a convicted predator, to get top political and military minds to speak. See, this is just the slime ball garbage that happens in Hollywood. Salons were her thing. Studios hired Siegel for her Rolodex, which she used to arrange clubby luncheons and receptions at the Four Seasons, La Grenouille, or other hotspots, filling the room with film stars and Oscar voters, such as thought leaders and artists ranging from Julian Schnabel to Charlie Rose to Gay Talese. So here in December 2010, Siegel arranged one such event for Epstein, helped create a guest list that included Rose, Woody Allen and his wife, Sunyi Previn, George Stephanopoulos, and that was the email I just showed you, Katie Couric, for a dinner with Epstein's Fred Prince Andrew. And the following years, Siegel played a role in determining Epstein's social calendar when he was in New York, inviting him to a flurry of screenings and events. Their relationships, at least the one that comes through their extensive correspondence in the files released by the Justice Department, was chatty and catty, at times warm and affectionate, at other moments transactional. Imagine that. Some emails contained bizarre requests for Siegel to arrange for Anne Hathaway to have coffee with Epstein and Bill Gates. Others included a back and forth about what type of private jet would be appealing enough for Epstein to convince Hathaway, Hugh Jackman, and Jessica Chastain to travel with him to the 2013 Oscars. Can I say the biggest, most luxurious private plane, Siegel wrote? Neither the coffee nor the private flight ever took place. So you could see all kinds of articles about this lady and what she did.
Police are asking right now. The details around that we have yet to know.
So this is the kind of story where it generates a flurry of text links, people trying to put together what they know now. Can you remind us the state
and that
of
is her
play
job
here
as a
in the
publicist.
US? Right now, it's the House Oversight Committee, right? Like who is investigating what at this point?
Well, that's a question that we don't actually know the full answer to. The House Oversight Committee is pursuing some depositions.
Yes.
With, the former Victoria's Secret owner, Wexner, did a deposition yesterday, but also there's this whole the question
And he's
of
a major donor,
Yes.
which is why people are focused
Right.
on him.
And the question of whether Bill and Hillary Clinton, what their testimony will look like, that's been going back and forth, but is expected in the coming weeks.
So there's Les Wexner right there. That's the guy in the middle with the big smile next to Jeffrey Epstein. He was deposed yesterday. I'm going to be doing a video just about Leslie Wexner's deposition. I'm going to be doing that later or tomorrow. Make sure you hit the notifications so that you can get it, because I'm going to be doing that in a horizontal format, not in this vertical format.
But I think that the thing that is notable here is that so far the fallout from the Epstein Files, which by the way have still not been fully released despite the law that said that
And just so you can see, I have it on deck. It's on deck right here. I just got to make the thumbnail.
Needed to be. The fallout has been not in America, not in American politics, in ways that people have really been feeling the kinds of results that have been happening in Europe,
yeah.
Or people even stepping away from business dealings in the United States. There are a lot of political figures who keep coming up in these documents.
Yeah.
Documents are not necessarily things that implicate guilty behavior, but we have from the Justice Department from the beginning this statement that there was nothing to follow up on.
Nothing to follow up on. Let's get through here. He's boring. So isn't it weird how this guy, isn't that George Stephanopoulos, the guy who was at the Epstein dinners, and now he's talking about it on the news on ABC? What? Really? Really? Okay. Let's hear what George has to say. Now, remember, we just saw George's name. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, George's name is right here. Okay, right above Jeffrey Epstein's name in this dinner list. You know when they say you can't make this shit up? You cannot make this shit up. You couldn't possibly. Nobody could possibly make this up. But it's so ridiculous that this still happens. Hit the like button.
Well, what we do know is that it was the Queen that pushed for Andrew to be that special advisor. We do know that the current king, when he was made the special envoy after leaving the Royal Navy, made it very clear that he didn't think it was a good idea. He thought that Andrew should just focus on doing royal duties and not take on an official role until, in terms of working alongside the government in this way, until it was cleared, until he fully understand what was involved. I'm sure that the king has got his head in his hands about this at the moment. This really is a seismic moment, I've said, for the monarchy. I do believe, nothing like this has ever happened before. And I didn't actually think it would, even with all the pressure, that it would actually reach that stage again. This is going to be a hugely complex case. And of course, he doesn't have immunity. The king can't be tried in his courts in this country. But we have this issue here that if there's evidence that comes out here that the king knew, the king would actually have to give evidence in a court of law, that would collapse the case, like it did, if you remember, in 2002 with the Burrell case, when the Queen suddenly remembered she'd had been told things by Burrell that he was keeping Diana's things for safekeeping. Now, that led to the collapse of the case. It truly is a seismic moment for this country, and I think for the monarchy as well.
Do you think that the king is going to have something to say about this?
Well, if he doesn't, I think he should, because I think that at the end of the day, he is not only the head of state, he is also the head of the nation, if you like, and he's responsible for leading the monarchy, which is part of this constitutional parliamentary democracy. The problem, of course, will be now that this is a police case, and this means a lot of this conjecture that's been going on has to stop. Now, we have to wait and see if Andrew is actually charged. Once the moment is that he's charged with anything, then, of course, all this conjecture has to stop in the media and it becomes a police case. So that makes it difficult for the king to make a statement. But trust in the monarchy will be at an all-time low at the moment. And I think that at some stage, whether it's at the end of this or even just now, there needs to be some statement from the king and from the palace, and to make sure that people understand that this is an accountable institution that will go forward will be transparent and abide by the law. We had the Prime Minister this morning on television saying no one is above the law, and it looks like that's the case.
How serious a threat to the monarchy is this?
I think it is an existential threat. I think that the monarchy depends upon the trust of the people. It depends on...
Help me out and hit that like button, guys. Thanks.
For the system to operate is... they are an unelected institution. It may be, if the king is involved in being seen to be part of a cover-up, that it could have serious implications for him. And maybe, I don't know, maybe what goes forward. I mean, the two people that clearly are clear in all of this are William and Catherine. And it's clear, it seems, that William, I remember that William, many years ago when Andrew was at the Garter ceremony, wanted to go to the Garter ceremony, and William said, "Look, if he's there, I'm not going." And that was like 6 years ago. And he put his foot down.
But just to be clear, this all happened when the king was Prince of Wales, and we have no evidence that Andrew and the Prince were then talking about these matters.
Well, I do know. I mean, we don't have evidence, no, but I do know that it was discussed, and I do know that the king and Andrew had a meeting and talked about it, and Andrew gave his reassurances, probably similar to what he said on the BBC in that catastrophic Newsnight interview, that there was, he had nothing to hide. He hadn't done anything wrong. But I think this is a lot to do with the Epstein sexual allegations, not necessarily this stuff on his role as a misconduct in a public office. We did not know the extent of that, and we didn't know that until the Mandelson, the former Deputy Prime Minister of Britain and former person that was in the
a little bit as we see this again to the Epstein Files, where I'm going to drop in a couple of these here so you can see what this is. This is the United States Southern District of New York. Okay, so that's what this is, right? Let me see if I can get a proper zoom on this. Probably not. We're going to have to pull out here. Okay, so what we have here is a statement of the U.S. Attorney General. This is in 2020, June of 2020. This is how long this has been going on with Andrew. Statement of U.S. Attorney Jeffrey S. Berman responding to statement issued today by law firm representing Prince Andrew back in 2020. This statement says, today, Prince Andrew yet again sought to falsely portray himself to the public. This is in 2020. Falsely portray himself to the public as eager and willing to cooperate with an ongoing federal criminal investigation into trafficking and related offenses committed by Jeffrey Epstein and his associates, even though the prince has not given an interview to federal authorities, has repeatedly declined our request to schedule such an interview, and nearly 4 months ago informed us unequivocally through the very same counsel who issued today's release that he would not come in for such an interview. This is 2020. If Prince Andrew is, in fact, serious about cooperating with the ongoing federal investigation, our doors remain open and we await word of when we should expect him. This is the Southern District of New York. This is the U.S. Attorney's Office. This is in 2020. This letter is from the Epstein Files.
The former Washington ambassador, until he got arrested. So all of this has been emerging at a very fast rate. And the most important thing now is that he has to give evidence under caution. He has to give a witness statement under caution. We don't know if he's going to be charged yet. I should imagine that will take a bit of time. But, this is a very fast-moving story, George, and historic.
Let me go back to James Long. Did we learn anything new, James?
Well, I think one of the things that stands out for me, George, is that the properties that are being searched now by the police, I mean, we're in this extraordinary situation where properties belonging to the king are being searched because, remember, Prince Andrew, as he was then, was moved from the home that he lived in Windsor to the Sandringham estate, which is the private estate of the king. It's not a public palace. This is owned by the royal family privately. So you ask whether or not the king would have given his permission for this to have happened. The police arriving at the king's private estate, one imagines there must have been some kind of coordination. The royal family have in the last few weeks been very, very clear about trying to move themselves away from this entire scandal, to lean in very heavily to speaking about the Epstein survivors. When asked about this, and Camilla, Charles, Edward, they've all been heckled in public spaces, asked about Andrew. They can feel the pressure over this, and time again, they have directed people to looking at the Epstein victims and saying that their hearts are with them, that the focus should be on them. So that is the palace's way of saying that we're on their side and that perhaps Andrew, they're going to cooperate with the police in as much as they can. But they are hamstrung here. The King Charles, and as much as his effort will now be to try to save the monarchy, because let's make no bones about it, that is what this will be about for Buckingham Palace. At the same time, he's hamstrung because this is now a police investigation, so he will be limited in what he can say. And that is why I think whenever they are asked, they do say, well, our hearts are with the Epstein victims. Once again, we should separate what's happened here from the crimes that Epstein committed. This is about the relationship that Andrew seems to have had with Epstein beyond that, and the relationship that he had when he was trade envoy, sharing government secrets perhaps with Jeffrey Epstein as late as 2010. Nevertheless, the royal family knows about the optics of all this, and they will want to show that they are on the side of the public, not on Andrew's side.
And James, Robert,
remember, this guy on the left was on the party list. This guy went to dinner parties with Epstein.
Jobson said this is an existential threat, perhaps to the monarchy. We also know with these revelations about Peter Mandelson, the former trade minister, former ambassador to the United States for the UK, that this could also be a threat to the current British government.
Absolutely. Peter Mandelson was at the heart of the Labour movement. He was part of the Labour government with Tony Blair. He built Labour alongside Tony Blair and was in the Labour government at a time when he also seems to have been in communication with Jeffrey Epstein, sharing information with him as business envoy, and that for possibly, allegedly, financial gain on behalf of Peter Mandelson. So this goes to the heart of British institutions writ.
So this is just outside of the house here. Let's show you outside of his house. As they searched this morning, we'll get a little something over here too.
Breaking news on the former Prince Andrew, a statement this morning from Thames Valley Police to say that he has been arrested. Why has he been arrested? He's been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office, which is one of the investigations that was going on by a number of police forces across the country. This Thames Valley Police investigation.
Public office, I mean, he was already released. He's been released back into the public. This is just crazy. This is nuts. This is just nuts. Unbelievable.
Is the first one to be raised to a full criminal investigation, and the first action they took in that was to arrest Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Today, I mean, this is actually Mr.
The ex-Prince Andrew in handcuffs is more than a royal scandal. It's a stress test for the entire idea of justice, right? So for years, the Epstein story has been about a predator who died in a cell and a list of powerful people who never seemed to face real consequence. Now, today, that story has changed. The question now is simple and brutal. All right? It is very simple. Does this arrest lead to a real reckoning? Or does the machine find a way to grind this down into another quiet deal? Are they going to be able to cover this up? But I'm going to be tracking every development, formal charges, bail decisions, court dates, and any sign that prosecutors are willing to climb higher up the Epstein ladder. So if you want to stay ahead of the headlines instead of catching the sanitized recap tomorrow, make sure you subscribe, turn on all your notifications, and hit the like so the stream keeps getting pushed while we are off the air. And I really appreciate you guys doing that for me, hitting that like button, sharing, and subscribing. So drop your thoughts in the comments below and in the live chat. Now, does Andrew's arrest make you believe the Epstein network is finally being exposed, or do you think the deepest secrets are still being locked away? Right? That's what I want to know from you in the comments. So thank you for watching. We all stand with the survivors. Stay skeptical of spin, and remember, no title, no crown, no bank account should ever be big enough to bury the truth. And the truth is a moving target. And I will see you on the next one. Let's go.